Do I want to smoke a joint? Do I want to have a glass of wine? Yeah, I don't struggle with it, but that's my reservations. I would love to have a glass of wine. I'm going to Vegas. I would love to have a couple of drinks in Las Vegas, but you know what? I might not come back from Las Vegas if I do that. You know what I mean? Because, I could I do it? Maybe I can, but maybe I can't. So am I willing to take that risk? No, I'm not. The most important thing I had a 13-inch TV in my cell. Addicts and Alcoholics theme song is "Fuck It." Fuck it, and go use. And I never told the story. This is a story that I tell usually when I speak at a recovery convention or at a 12-step meeting. So that night, I don't know, about 2, 3 in the morning, my phone rings. And I pick it up, and it's this guy that I met at the meeting. And he's crying and carrying on and telling me, I'm going to kill myself.
Your cybersecurity solution is here. Introducing Pentester's Advanced Cybersecurity Suite. Ready for peace of mind? Try it for free. No credit card required. Pentester.com.
My name is Anthony Ruggiano Jr. I want to welcome everybody to Reformed Gangsters. Don't forget, if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And don't forget to check out my Patreon. Membership started at $1. There's a lot of good content on there, and a lot of content coming your way. A lot of new content's going to be put up there from Vegas. Don't forget Vegas, August 6th to August 13th. I'll be at the Mob Museum, actually, from August 8th to the 12th. We're doing 20 shows, so I hope to see you. And if you want to meet up with me personally, have a cup of coffee, buy me dinner, whatever you want to do, you could contact me through my website and my email, Anthony Ruggiano Jr. @gmail.com, and we'll try to accommodate you. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about recovery. It's not real, well, it's not a mob thing, but it has to do with my life, how I ended up because of the mob. So, and I never told the story. This is a story that I tell usually when I speak at a recovery convention or at a 12-step meeting. This is like something I say because it's part of my recovery story and it's part of my belief system, I guess you could say. So when I left New York, when the feds took me out of New York, they took me to safe houses. The first one they took me to was in New Jersey, and it was in the fall of '05. I was there for a while, but then in the right after the holidays, right after Christmas, in the middle of the winter, they took me out of that house and they took me to a house in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, in the mountains, in this little town in the Poconos. And for those of you who don't know, ever heard of the Poconos, it's in Pennsylvania. It's like where people go to ski and hunt and all that. So now I'm in this little town in Pennsylvania in the Poconos, and it's freezing. It's snowing every day. And I'm alone, and I used to go every day into town. There was a 12-step meeting that started at noon every day. Well, not every day, 6 days a week, from Monday to Saturday. And across the street was a coffee house with a theater in the back, like a little old artsy kind of theater that was probably there 100 years. It was a coffee house, an old school coffee house, and then in the back was a little theater that used to show foreign films. And I like foreign films. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but I like foreign films. I go see them in the theater when they're good. So anyway, I used to go to this meeting every day at noon. And it wasn't a big meeting. There was maybe, on a good day, 20 people there. So one day, it's really snowing out, and we're in this meeting, and there's about 7 or 8 men there and a couple of women. There was maybe about 15 of us. And this guy walks in and he's beat to shit. This guy, he's trembling, he's beat up. And before the meeting, we give out readings. So we gave him one of the readings to read. And when it was his turn to read, he couldn't even get through the reading. He started crying and trembling. He was just like a basket case, this guy. So after the meeting, all the men at the meeting gave him their cell numbers. And like I said, there was about 6 or 7 of us, and we all gave him their cell numbers. And we all shared at the meeting. We all had something to say at the meeting. We all shared. So he heard all of us share this guy. So then the meeting leaves, it breaks up, we go our separate ways. And at night, I was in the mountains, but I left my cell phone on all the time, and I used to keep it by my bed because my kids were in New York, my wife was in New York, my family was in New York, and God forbid of anything, you know, I kept my phone on all night. I never shut my cell phone off. So that night, I don't know, about 2, 3 in the morning, my phone rings. And I pick it up, and it's this guy that I met at the meeting. And he's crying and carrying on and telling me, I'm going to kill myself. My family don't want to talk to me. I can't stop smoking crack. My kids hate me. And he's going on and on and on and on and on. On and on and on. And I'm listening now, and I'm talking to him, you know, and I'm talking recovery to him, and we're going back and forth 1 hour, 2 hours. I was on this phone with this guy for 3 hours because now I don't want to hang up because I'm afraid this guy's going to kill himself. So finally, he calms down. I calm him down. He stops crying. He stops carrying on. And I tell him, listen, do you have a ride to the meeting today? Because now it's like 6, 7 in the morning. And he goes, yeah, my sister is going to take me to the meeting. I said, all right, listen. The meeting starts at 12 o'clock. Meet me at the meeting at 11. Could your sister take you there a half hour early? He goes, yeah. I said, all right, meet me there at 11:30. I said, you're all right now? He goes, yeah, I'll meet you. I'll be there. I go, okay, meet me there at 11:30. I go to the meeting. I get there early. I get there at 11:15. I wanted to get there before he did because now I'm praying he's going to show up. I wanted to get there before him. So I was there waiting for him when he came there. So I'm outside, I'm waiting at the meeting, I'm outside, and this black SUV pulls up, and it's this guy, and he gets out of the car and he sees me and he smiles. Right? And he smiles and he hugs me and he lights up a cigarette and we start talking and we go in the meeting. And he was like sharing, you know, he was all right. And the guy started making meetings every day. I started running into him all the time. I was up in the Poconos, and he was staying clean a day at a time. So, you know, maybe that I had to go through everything I went through to be at that place at that time to save that guy's life. Because out of everybody at that meeting, for some reason, he chose me to call. And if I didn't go through everything I went through my whole life, I would have never been at that meeting to save that guy. And that's what recovery is all about, you know, one addict helping another. So why he called me, I don't know, but he chose me to call, and I was in the right place at the right time. And the guy went from wanting to kill himself to a smile on his face. So that's my little spiel about recovery. So I just want to thank everybody. Every week we get letters, messages, and emails from people all over the world saying this show has helped them get clean, help them forgive, help them believe they can change, because if I could change, anybody could change. And that means everything to me. If you want to support what we're doing here, keep the show going and help us reach out to even more people. I got something special for you. We're now offering personalized 8x10 photos directly from me to you. You can find the link in the description below. Each one I sign myself, and I mean it when I say I'm grateful for every single person that supports this journey. So if you've been impacted by my show, or you just want to own a piece of the story, hit the link and grab one. It helps us keep going. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Listen, getting high is easy. Getting high and getting drunk is easy. Staying clean and sober, that's really hard. You know what I mean? It's easy to listen. Um, Addicts and Alcoholics theme song is fuck it. Fuck it. And go use. You know what I mean? And that's what we get. We get the fuck it's. And then we go get high or get drunk. You know what I mean? Like listen, I could only tell people how I did it. All right, I'm coming up on 37 years. The last time I used, I sat on the couch with my friend Steve, who was my sponsor at the time, and he told me that the party was over. And he was right. He said, because of that, he said, every time I use, I'm going to go right back to the bottom. And that's what happened to me through that relapse. I went right back to the bottom. I went right back to where I left off. And at that point in time, once I realized that the party was over, on that day, that moment, I made a commitment not to use no matter what. And believe me, some days it was hard to do that. Listen, I went to prison clean. Twice. I did 10 years clean. People offered me drugs. I had the perfect excuse to listen, I'll tell you a jailhouse story. I had the perfect excuse to get high. People in the street were telling me, smoke a joint, that it's okay. I could have got high. First of all, I had money. I could have got anything I wanted. So now I'm in Attica. The worst prison in the New York State prison system, the most secure, the most violent. I'm in Attica. I'm in C Block. I had what they call a box cell. I had a cell with a box window, but it was caged in the window, but it opened out. And it had like it was like a closet, really. And in the winter, it was like a refrigerator, because I was up in the fucking mountain. It was freezing. So it was like a refrigerator. So I could put milk out there. I could take containers of milk from the mess hall, and I could keep stuff out. It was like a friggin' refrigerator. So I had that. That was the score. And I didn't have bars. I had a metal door. So I had privacy. I had 2 hot pots. I had one wired up where it boiled water. And I had one normal one that I could cook in. So I had one rigged and one normal, 2 hot pots. So I used to make, and we had a guy in the commissary. The commissary guys were from Buffalo. So they used to order for us imported tomatoes, plum tomatoes from Italy in the can, and pasta. You know, we used to have pasta, and then our wives or girlfriends would send us our packages with grated cheese and pepperonis and supersides and cheeses and everything. So I used to make on Sundays, Sunday sauce. I had a robe. I had a beautiful robe, right? I had cigarettes because I smoked at that time. I didn't quit smoking yet, right? I had a robe. I had the most important thing I had a 13-inch TV in my cell. Do you know what kind of score it is to have a TV in your cell? With cable. I had the Yes Station. I could watch all the games. I could watch all the Knicks games, all the Yankee games. And on Fridays, they used to pipe in a video. They used to get a video from the neighborhood video store, and the whole prison, whoever had TVs, used to be able to watch the movie. So I had all these comforts, even though I was in jail. And there was this kid, a porter, this young black kid. He had 25 to life. He was broke. This kid, I used to give him cigarettes. He needed T-shirts. I made my wife send me up packs of T-shirts. I gave him T-shirts and everything, right? And I used to look out for the kid. I felt sorry for him. So at night, he used to come and give us hot water, because there's no hot water in the cell. There's only cold water. So every night we had plastic buckets. We would put them outside our cell, and he would fill the buckets up with boiling hot water. And then we would get washed up in the bucket with the hot water, because we had no hot water in the cell. So one night my cell door's open, because I had a metal door, so they used to open it at night for a little while. So my cell door's open, and he couldn't come in my cell, but he could come like outside my cell to give me the hot water. He wasn't allowed in my cell. So he comes over and he says to me, he looks around, he goes, listen, I got a joint. You want a joint? And I go, no, I don't want it. He goes to me, I don't understand. He goes, how come you don't get high? You don't smoke no weed. You don't sniff no dope. So I looked at him and I went, listen, I said, I got a robe. I got 2 hot pots. I got a TV. I got a box window that's like a refrigerator. I get visits every month. I get packages. I said, why would I jeopardize all that to smoke a joint? I said, if I smoke a joint and I get a dirty urine, what happens? I lose my property the first time for 30 days. Then I give them another dirty urine. I lose my property. I lose my visits. Then I lose my TV. Why would I do that? Why would I want to give up all this just to escape for a couple of hours? And that's what kept me clean in jail. Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to kick back in my cell and smoke a joint. Fuck, and what are you kidding me? I would love to do that. But you know what? But I didn't. Another incident in prison, I'm in Attica, and there was a captain from the Genovese family called Sally Dobbs. He was Big Ange's uncle from Mob Wives. Big Ange that passed away. This was her uncle, Sally Dobbs. Great friends of my own man's, his uncle, his brother, his cousin Tommy Lombardo. He was another captain with the Genovese family powerhouses. These 2 guys were powerhouses. So him and Teddy Persico from the Colombo family pulled me into the maintenance shop when I first got there, when I rolled in. Because I didn't know Teddy yet, but I knew Sally Dogs. I knew. And they pulled me into the maintenance shop, and we all blocked in the same block and everything. So Sally and I used to walk the yard together. And there was this motorcycle gang that was in the yard too. They were all sniffing dope and everything. They were all using. And the leader of them used to always want to talk to Sally Dogs. So we would be walking the yard, and he would come up to us, and he would start walking with us, and I would peel off. And I would tell Sally, listen, I got something to do. I'm going back to my cell, whatever. And I would peel off. Every time this guy came to talk to Sal, I would peel off. So now one Saturday, I'm in the yard, and Sally's not out yet. And I'm sitting at the table, because we had our own table. And this guy comes out to the yard, this biker guy. And he says to me, excuse me, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, sure. So he goes to me, what's the matter? You don't fucking like me? I said, yeah, I like you. I said, well, I have no beef with you. He goes, you have no beef with me? He goes, well, how come every time I come over to walk the yard with you and Sally Dogs, you fucking walk away? You don't want to walk the yard with me? So I says, you're right. I don't want to walk the fucking yard with you. And he gets like, he goes, what do you mean you don't want? Why? Why don't you want to walk the yard? I'm no good with him. I'm a fucking rat. I go, no. I said, oh, take it easy. I said, no, you're no rat, but you're using. You're fucking around with heroin. You and your boys sniff heroin. I don't know who you owe money to in this fucking yard. I don't know what you're doing. I'm not involved. I don't fuck around with drugs. I said, listen, if I walk the yard with you, that means we're friends. If you owe somebody money or you're having a drug beef, the guys roll up on you and they start, don't I got to take your back? Otherwise, I'm creeped out, right? Why would I want to get involved with you when I know you're using? And you know what? And the guy looked at me and he shook my hand and he goes, you know what? I could understand that. I said, if you weren't using and you weren't involved in drugs in this yard, I'd walk the yard with you every day. I said, I'm not going to put my life on the line for you. You want to sniff fucking drugs? And that was it. You know what I mean? And we shook hands, and you know, and he understood where I was coming from. And that's how I deal with it. And that's how I stay clean. You know, I don't hang with people that use drugs. You don't people, places, and things. You got to change. You got to change. You got to change. You know, you got to change the people you stay with. You got to change the places you go and the things you do. You got to change. Otherwise, you know, there's a saying in AA. I don't go to AA. I go to NA. But there's a saying in AA. an old time saying, two sayings. One saying is, if you hang out in a barber shop, you're going to get a haircut. So if you hang out in bars, you're going to pick up a drink. If you hang out on a corner with people that are using dope, you're going to use dope. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line, especially in the beginning. Especially in the beginning. If you get a couple, like now, I could go anywhere. It doesn't bother me. I'm clean 36 years. You could pour a fucking kilo of cocaine on the table right now. It wouldn't even faze me. I'll just walk away. You know what I mean? But, because it's not that I'm cured, but it's not, I'm over it. Do I want to smoke a joint? Do I want to have a glass of wine? Yeah, I don't struggle with it, but that's my reservations. I would love to have a glass of wine. I'm going to Vegas. I would love to have a couple of drinks in Las Vegas, but you know what? I might not come back from Las Vegas if I do that. You know what I mean? Because, I could I do it? Maybe I can, but maybe I can't. So am I willing to take that risk? No, I'm not. And that's how you got to do it.
Thank God you had that rope. Because if there's ever a time to be like, fuck it, I'm in jail, I got the Yankees, I'll sit back, I'll smoke a joint every night and relax. That's the time to say fuck it, but what a great decision.
Yeah, but look what I would have lost. My visits, I wouldn't have been able to see my kids. I would have lost all my property, my you know what I mean? I don't want to give all that. So I know guys that had it just as good as me that were getting high, and they take your urine, you give them a dirty urine, they take everything from you. But that's the disease of addiction. Guys that know that got high anyway. See, it comes to a point where you got to be, I don't want to suffer the consequences anymore behind using. Until you come to the point where you don't want to deal with the consequences anymore, you're going to keep getting high. Because once you cross over the line, they say it's an imaginary line. Once you cross over the imaginary line into addiction or alcoholism, there's consequences when you get high. Every time you relapse, there's consequences. Every time you continually use into addiction, there's consequences that you're going to keep suffering over and over and over again. And until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of those consequences, you're going to keep getting high. I didn't want to suffer the consequences anymore. When I got clean in '88, it was because I knew I was going to die. I got clean because of the fear of death. I knew that day, that morning when I woke up and I looked in the mirror, I knew that if I didn't stop, I was going to die. I knew it. I knew that I was in so much pain, physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain. I was so beat up in every shape, way, or form. I knew that morning that if I didn't stop what I was doing, I was going to die. And I was afraid to die. I'll admit it, I'm a punk. I'm still afraid to die. I was afraid to die. I want to die on my terms. I want to die naturally. I don't want to die from a cocaine overdose or a seizure or get shot in the fucking head in some dope spot at 3 o'clock in the morning, sticking my hand through a fucking hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? So until you don't want to suffer, and that's what I tell my clients. I tell these kids every day, if you want to suffer consequences, go get high. Until you're ready, until you're sick and tired of the consequences, keep getting high. Nothing's going to get better.
If somebody's using, it must feel like a tremendous mountain to climb to stop using, get clean, and go forward with your life, especially that beginning, like you said. So do you recommend just go to detox, check yourself in, submit, give up, or try to do it on your own?
I mean, I know people that have done it on their own. I think in this day and age, with the drugs are out there, you should go to a detox if you can. I mean, you got if you need to go to a detox, go to a detox. I didn't know anything about recovery. If I didn't go to the treatment center, I went to save my life, because the treatment center I went to introduced me, to a 12-step program. I didn't know nothing about 12-step programs. I didn't know nothing about I didn't know how to stay clean. I knew nothing about recovery. I just knew that I had to stop. And I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know what to do. I called up this phone number that was a commercial on TV. And this woman, Joan Davanzo, answered the phone. I still talk to her. She was a therapist. She was in recovery. And I told her what was going on. She told me, listen, you got to go to a treatment center. She got me a bed. Tony Lee paid for it. And I went. And they brought me to a meeting. You know what I mean? So my suggestion is, if you can go to treatment, go to treatment. Do you have to go to treatment? No, you don't. Go to a meeting. Raise your hand. People in 12-step meetings are going to gravitate you because the newcomer is the most important person at any meeting. That's what they say, and that's the truth. So people like me are going to gravitate towards you if you just walk in the door, because that's how it works. That's how me helping you helps me. Well, I'm not sponsoring anybody right now, but I have sponsored a lot of people in the past. I mean, I talk to a lot of people that are on the fence. I talk to a lot throughout the years. I talk to a lot of people. Listen, my sponsor used to tell me very simply, the first year I tried to get clean, I relapsed 3 times. The first year. My sponsor told me one day, listen, this is what you do. The next time you want to get high, call me and let's have a conversation. After the conversation, if you still want to get high, go get high. I'll be here when you get back, if you get back. And that's what I tell people today. Listen, have a conversation, make a meeting. Listen, I was clean 22 years. Okay? I'm living in Michigan. I'm miserable. Miserable. I made really good friends in Michigan through the 12-step meetings I was going to. All my friends in Michigan were in recovery. I didn't know one person in Michigan outside of my family that wasn't in recovery. Every friend I had in Michigan to this day, I'm friends with these people 20 years now, because I went to a meeting on a Friday afternoon and raised my hand and introduced myself, and there was people at the meeting that are still in my life. I'm clean 22 years. I'm miserable. I'm broke. The government's giving me a stipend. I'm miserable. I'm misplaced. I'm just not happy. I'm in this store, Myers. They call it Myers. It's like a Walmart, it's right across the street from where I live. You still there? My son's trying to call me. I don't know why. I told him I was going on Zoom. I don't know what's.
We're still here. You keep going.
Yeah. So I'm in Myers, and I'm miserable, and I wind up in the row of the liquor. And I picked up a bottle of vodka, Grey Goose. I never drank Grey Goose. It was an outlet. I got clean. I picked up a bottle, and I was a Scotch drinker. I didn't really even like vodka. I picked up a bottle of Grey Goose, and because I had so many years clean, the tape started playing in my head. Now I'm clean 22 years. The tape started playing in my head where that bottle of vodka may take me, and I took it, and I put it back on the shelf, and I walked out of the store. I got in my car. As soon as I got in my car, I called my sponsor, because I had a sponsor in Michigan. I called my sponsor and I told him, listen, I just had a bottle of vodka in my hand. And he goes, all right, I'll meet you at your house. And then, I went home, he met me at my house, and we went to a meeting. Now, that's how it works. I'm clean 22 years. But I had enough recovery to know what to do, not to use. And that's what you need to do. Just because you get a thought doesn't mean you got to act out on it. Just because I feel like getting high doesn't mean I have to get high. So what do? You give yourself a break. You pick up the phone, you make a meeting, you go for a walk, you go to the gym, because feelings aren't facts, and when you want to use, it's going to pass. Cravings come and go. So I'm ready to use at 22 years. And why I didn't use was because I took the advice, I took the tools I learned along the way not to use. Yeah, you can't just stop it. You can't stop by magic. I mean, you could listen. I shouldn't say you can't, but is life going to get better? Are you going to be happier? Are you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be alone and miserable. It takes some work to stay clean. It takes work to stay clean.
Talk to me about people who may feel it's embarrassing to admit they have a problem, stop their life, and go into detox.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. And my thing to them is like, were you worried about that when you were drunk? Were you worried about that when you were locked in your closet smoking crack and everybody knew you in the closet smoking crack? People, it's comical because addicts and alcoholics, everybody knows you're an addict or an alcoholic, and then you get clean and sober and you're embarrassed to go to a meeting. But that's a disease in your brain, because the disease is telling you it's stinky thinking. That's the disease in your head. The disease in your head doesn't want you to be clean. The disease doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to be miserable. It wants you to use. It's a disease that tells you don't have a disease. You know what I mean? So I know people that, I know wealthy people. Like I had a sponsor in Michigan that was a millionaire, legit millions. Family owned a major company in Michigan outside of Detroit. Millionaire, lived in a mansion, had a beautiful family, couldn't stop smoking crack. A crackhead, stone cold crackhead. Had a brand new Ford 150, one of them trucks, brand new. He would drive around in his truck for days, smoking crack in his truck by himself for days. Couldn't stay clean. Would get 30 days used, 90 days used, a year used. Couldn't stay clean. Now we're having a recovery picnic. Right now, I took my daughter to all of them because my daughter was living in Michigan with me, right? So now I'm with him at his house, and the picnic was on a Saturday, and this was like a Friday night. I think we were watching a sporting event in his house. He had a big mansion. And I tell him, listen, are you coming to the picnic tomorrow? He goes, yeah. I go, are you bringing your kids? He goes, I'm not going to bring my kids there. I'm not. Like he didn't want his kids playing with the addicts' kids. So I looked at him and I went, let me tell you something. I said, until you realize that you're no better than a homeless crackhead that eats out of a dumpster, you're never going to get clean or stay clean, because you're no better than the homeless crackhead that's eating out of a dumpster right now in Detroit. I said, you're a crackhead. Do you understand? You are a crackhead. He got mad at me. Because he had money, and I don't want my kids. I don't want my kids there. What do you mean? You're a fucking crackhead. You don't want your kids there. I'm bringing my daughter there. So it's hard for some people. Ego, fear. It's hard. It's hard for women. There's more men in recovery than women because women deal with a lot more guilt than men. They abandon their children. They have abortions. They turn tricks. You know what I mean? There's way more men in recovery than women.
You said that you fell off a couple times in the beginning. Well, I think it's even worse the more time you have under your belt and fall off. And that happens all the time. It's part of recovery. We talked about this. But what's the mindset that you need? Is it I'm doing this for me? I'm doing it for my kids. What's the best mindset to go?
If you're not going to do, you're not going to get clean for anybody but yourself. You could start out with, I'm doing this for my family, but at the end of the day, it's all about you. Only you could keep you clean and sober. Only you could stop. Only you could do it. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I had my son was 6 years old when I got clean. I did hard. I left my house and stood out for days and never even called my, I'm ashamed of it, but I did it. What am I going to do? I'm not going to run, and people out there on these YouTube channels that, want to call me names, and that's the ammunition they use. Like I left my wife and my kid, and I did that, and that's what I did. I'd go out of my house and I'd go on a run and I'd be gone for days. And I wouldn't even know if they had food or not. I was out for days, running all over, robbing everybody, sticking up dope spots, smoking coke, doing also womanizing, out of my mind. You know what I mean? That's the disease of addiction. And that's the stuff you got to deal with. Now, when you get clean, you have to deal with all that wreckage. Otherwise, you're going to keep using. You got to deal with all that wreckage. You got to forgive yourself. You got to ask for forgiveness. You got to make amends. There's things you got to do so you don't keep using.
So what advice would you give to the person who is in recovery, submitted, but they fell off? Like that's gotta
just keep coming back. You got to listen. You got to just keep coming back. I relapsed 3 times my first year, but because I didn't want to use anymore. I was done. You know what I mean? Like I was clean for, and every time the 3 times I got high the first year was all because I didn't take suggestions. I put myself in positions that I shouldn't have been in early recovery. I was around people that were drinking and using. I was in places I shouldn't have been, and I was in situations I shouldn't have been involved in. And I picked up, and it was always involved a girl, a club, always, all 3. Listen, the first time I had 6 months, and I was out, and I was out in Manhattan, and I picked up, and I did a couple of blows, and I went home, and the next day I went to a meeting, and I said I got 1 day back, and I went right back. The second time, it was the night before Thanksgiving, which I went out my whole life the night before Thanksgiving, right? Now I'm 35 years old, I'm looking good. I'm clean now, another 90 days, I'm clean another 3 months. It's the night before Thanksgiving, right? And I know all my friends are in the Lemon Tree on Austin Street. And I know there's this girl, Danielle, there that I could get with. So I go, you know what, I'm going to go there, I'm not going to use. I went to the Lemon Tree, and I met Danielle. I went back to her apartment, and I used. The sun came up. I went back home. I was living with Tony Lee then. I had split up with my wife, Alice, and I moved in with Tony Lee. I was living with Tony Lee in Lindenwood. I was living with Tony Lee when he got arrested on the case of John Gotti. I was living in his condo with him, and I used. I had another 3 months. Now it's January. That was November. It's January, and the girl I'm dating wants to go see George Michaels. We all know what George Michaels was. He was the rage back then. 1989, he's on top of the world. He's at Madison Square Garden. Now I had a major hook with scalpers. I had a scalper that was with us, this guy Dickie. I had a ticket business. So I called Dickie up. I get tickets for George Michaels. I go to the concert, great concert. Now all my friends are at a club in Manhattan. She wants to go have a drink. I take her to the bar. They're passing the coke under the table. I'm going to, you know what? Let me get a half a gram. I'll go get a room with my girl. But he'd be like, ba, 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 and then I'll go home. I got the half a gram. I went to the Crosby Motor Inn. It's still there on Crosby Boulevard. Every time I go back to the neighborhood, I tell her, whoever's in the car with me, that's the last place I used drugs. It's still there. I went to the Crosby Motor Inn. I did the half a gram. I got lit up. I took her home. Now I'm lit up. I went to the coke guy's house. He wouldn't let me in. He looked out the window and he saw me and he knew I relapsed. He wouldn't let me in. I started throwing rocks at his window. Now he lets me in. I get a nice package off him. I go back to the hotel by myself. 2 days later, I'm still in the room. 2 days by myself, getting high, by myself, like an animal. Right back. I sit on the bed. Like they say, a moment of clarity. Like I don't know how it happened. I can't explain it. It had to be divine intervention. I sat on the bed and I was done. And I picked up the hotel phone and I gave the guy at the front desk my friend Stevie's phone number. He was my sponsor at the time. And by some miracle, I don't even remember what day of the week it was, by some miracle, I could find out because I could Google it. But by some miracle, he answers the phone. And I tell him, I'm using, and he starts yelling at me. I know you're using. Everybody's calling me. Tony Lee's calling me. Yo, Alice is calling me. Everybody's calling me. Where the fuck are you? And I tell him, I'm in the Crossbay Motor, right? I said, what did you tell them? He goes, I told them all you in Atlantic City with some girl. He didn't tell them I relapsed. You know what I mean? He lied to me, which he shouldn't have really done, but he did it. He goes, I told them you in Atlantic City with some girl. I go, not my girl, because they could have saw my girl. So he told them with some other, with a girl. He didn't know who. So I said, all right. So now I go, all right, what should I do? Now I'm wired up. I go, what should I do? So he says to me, do you have anything left? And I said, yeah. He goes, okay, flush it and get back on the phone. So now I put the phone, this is true, I put the phone down and I had it on a little table in front of me on the bed, I'm sitting on the bed. And I looked at it and I was done. I scooped it up, I threw it in the bowl, I got back on the phone, I go, okay, I flushed it, what should I do now? He said, get in your car and meet me at your house. I'll meet you, I'll leave I'll meet you at your house. And I got in my car and I was living with Tony Lee, but I went back to Alice's house. I went back to where my son was. And I went back there to 88. I went back there and he met me there. And that's when he told me the party was over. And I haven't used since that day, January 12th, 1989. I was done. Because I know through those relapses that when I use, I'm going to wind up back at the Crossbay Motor Inn. The party's over. Once you cross into listen, there's at some point in your life, getting high was fun. But once you cross over that imaginary line into addiction, there's no going back to the fun anymore. That's it. All you're going to keep going back to is the bottom. There's no going back no more. It's over. And that's what, I used to facilitate groups, right? In treatment centers. Now I'm not a college graduate. I was a counselor, but I wasn't. I had no credentials. Like I wasn't a skilled therapist and everything. I wasn't. So I didn't spout out therapeutic nonsense. I talked from the heart, from the street, and I would have a room full of people in treatment recovery, rich people, poor people, doctors, lawyers, bums, all people from all different walks of life. And I would stand up in the group and I would say, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you right now the most therapeutic thing anybody could tell you. And they would all be staring at me like I was going to say this profound thing, right? And I would go, everybody here, including myself, has crossed over to the imaginary line into alcoholism and addiction. Am I right? And everybody in the room agreed. Yes. I said, okay, we all agree, right? That we all crossed over that imaginary line into addiction. And they all said, yes. I said, okay, now I'm going to tell you the most therapeutic thing you are ever going to hear in your whole life. And they're all listening. I said, we are all fucked. And that's it. Simple. We are fucked. And they all looked at it and they all started shaking their head because that's it. And that was my therapeutic thing to them. We are all fucked. There's no going back. You're fucked. So if you want to stay fucked, keep getting high. You want to get unfucked, get clean. And that's the most therapeutic thing you're ever going to hear. And they understood that because 90% of them all relapsed. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and don't forget, the choice is yours, man. If you want to stay clean, you could do it a day at a time, make a meeting, contact me, contact me through my email, Anthony Ruggiano Jr. at gmail.com. Please, don't use no matter what. Contact me, and all you other people out there that want to help carry this message, that want to contribute, please do. Join my Patreon. Check out, hit the link that we're going to put up. and help me, do my thing. So check out my content, join my Patreon, come to Vegas. I'll be in Vegas, and everybody stay safe.